Our first speaker is Mick Wallace, who is a former MP. We are going to have a video from him, former MEP. He's a former member of Parliament in Ireland for Wexford between 2011 and 2019. He is a former member of the South constituency of the European Parliament from 1914 to 1919, and is member of the group of European United Left and Nordic Left from 2019 to 2024, member of the Independence for Change in Ireland in the European Parliament. He formed part of many committees, foreign affairs, security and defense, and he is a strong Latin American, and I know because I met him personally, he speaks perfect Spanish. And I did some research in the internet, and he says, a controversial figure known for his public praise of the Chinese government. And even worse or better, Wallace has repeatedly asserted that Taiwan is part of China. Would you say Mick Wallace?
Hello everyone, how's it going? Sorry I am not in London with you, which I had planned, but it wasn't to be. But anyway, sure, I'm here to say hello anyway. Hope all good. I understand that your discussion is mostly around China's achievement in tackling extreme poverty and building socialism, and China as a force for peace and multipolarity. Well, I suppose just before we discuss the concept of multipolarity and multilateralism and unipolarity, I just wanted to touch on the fact that we're living in incredibly dangerous times. The world has rarely faced so many problems at the one time, such instability, such absence of international law of any form. But it's not just a time of danger and instability, it's also a time of opportunity, you know. And I think China can be at the heart of that opportunity. Now, look at the things that have gone on in the last couple of years alone are scary. Even before that, in the last 25 years, I think American imperialism has become more aggressive and more blatantly ugly and abusive, with the Afghan war, Iraq war, Libya, the dirty war in Syria, the goings on in Ukraine, and now we're looking at Palestine. And this is not to even touch on terrible things happening in other places like Latin America and Africa. I mean, only in the last few weeks, the Trump administration bombed a boat out of the water off Venezuela, claiming that it was about the movement of drugs, when in actual fact it was just migrants struggling to make a living somewhere else. I mean, just a total abuse of international law. But we've seen Israel, with US and European support, violate international law every day, not just in Palestine, not just in Yemen, in Lebanon, in Iran, in Syria, in Qatar. There's no end to it. And we don't even hear the international community or the Europeans even raise an objection to what Israel is doing. I mean, we're living in scary times. But look at, I suppose, much of the dialogue around these issues has been framed traditionally by the West in a way to suit themselves, and they've been very good at propagandizing their position at the expense of others. And like, for example, they still love to describe China as being authoritarian, which really is an Orientalist position and doesn't bear up to scrutiny, which links to the whole concept of what is democracy, and what in the West it seems to be about civic rights, the right to vote, freedom of expression, whereas in China freedom is about the freedom from deprivation, from extreme poverty, from hierarchies. And I mean, we can argue till the cows come home about who has the right perspective and who's right and who's wrong. And, it's very hard to say who is right and who's wrong. But what is clear is that the manner in which the West has tried to portray this for so many years is basically inaccurate. But just going back to the point about multilateralism, multipolarity, I mean, I was looking at the definitions of the words, right? Multipolarity is defined as a global power structure in which power and influence are distributed among different countries. Unipolarity is obviously a power structure where a single state holds predominant military, economic and cultural influence, overshadowing all others. In other words, if you don't see things our way, and if you don't like it, well, you're wrong. And that's the arrogant position of colonialism, and it's the arrogant position of Western imperialism. And the unipolarity has existed with the US, the dominant force, but this is completely and always linked to imperialism, which cannot possibly be good. It's about abusing others for your own financial benefit, and needs to be fought tooth and nail at every turn. But I heard Vijay Prashad recently talk about China and multipolarity and multilateralism, and he said that China is much more about multilateralism, he says, rather than multipolarity. And just to give you the definition of multilateralism, it's an alliance of countries pursuing a common goal. Multilateralism is based on the principles of inclusivity, equality and cooperation, and aims to foster a more peaceful, prosperous and sustainable world. And in fairness to the Chinese, they've done great work in this area, and I suppose it kind of started more after the 2008 financial crisis, when the wheels came off for the capitalist system on a temporary basis anyway. It didn't lead to the death of capitalism, unfortunately, but it certainly dealt it a serious blow, and they've probably been lying through their position ever since. But after the 2008 financial crisis, China did look to developing more South-South trade relations and business with all these other people that they felt they could build a more healthy relationship with, right? And I suppose it's important to say that China has probably overtaken the US and Europe in the area of science and technology at this stage, and that's why they're being threatened by the US, and with the Europeans forever threatening to de-link from China as if they were a threat to them, just because the Europeans are very much puppets of US empire at this stage and don't really have an independent foreign policy anyway. But this is what the US do, and I can remember back in the 80s and 90s when Japan were on the rise. The Americans put him back in their box with the Plaza Accord, and then you had the reverse Plaza in '95 when Clinton was in power. They literally put the Japanese down, but the Chinese are not really for putting down, and they don't seem to have any great appetite to return to the century of humiliation that probably began around 1838 with the first Anglo-Opium War. I mean, the century of humiliation for China was really about colonial aggression against China that led to the death of millions, and it was a terrible century for China, and China certainly has no appetite to go back there. and China is very much a serious force in the world economically today. But for me, just as importantly, I think that they can be a much more positive influence in the world, and I think that their work towards multilateralism will bear fruit. Now, obviously, they obviously changed position after the financial crisis, but then I think it was 2013 they introduced the Belt and Road Initiative, which was also about opening up links around infrastructure and development with about 150 countries. A fantastic initiative. So, I mean, at a time, when it's so obvious that Western imperialism, mostly driven by America and the old Europeans tagging along, their days are numbered, and we've really had enough of them. They have destroyed millions of lives and displaced tens of millions in the last 25 years alone, and it's not where we want it to be, and things have to change. And Xi Jinping is very keen on the importance of countries having their sovereignty and working together for peace. And this has been, the way of China. I mean, people should remember, China hasn't dropped a bomb on anybody in 45 years. And the Americans drop bombs on people every day. The Americans have dropped more bombs since the end of the Second World War than the rest of the world put together. They have been an incredible destructive force. And I like to think that China offers a very positive alternative. People would say, well, we've never seen a nice empire. But you know what? And I'm not disagreeing with that. All governments leave a lot to be desired. But there's something positive about where the Chinese are going with their position. And they do have a policy of not interfering in the affairs of other countries. They work for mutual benefit for themselves and for the country they're dealing with. One thing I would say is that while I never expected them to interfere in Gaza, I do think that it has been remiss of them not to cut off business links with Israel. I'm not asking them to bomb the place. I don't want them to ever bomb anywhere. But we're watching a genocide. And listen, I know people say, well, look, if you cut off links with one country, where do you draw the line? And there's some merit in that. I mean, America has probably been the most destructive force in the last 100 years, so why do business with them? But listen, I just think that in this case, it's a bit different even. It's a genocide. I don't think, Israel is a terrorist state, and it's so obvious, and they are so bad. I do think that China will show a wonderful example if they cut off business links with them. Anyway, that's my few words. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much to Mick. He's absolutely right. Multipolarity offers opportunities. There's no question about it. But the one country, as Mick said, which is the source of aggression and instability is the United States. Let me give you just one example very briefly. Trump threatened Panama with taking the canal by military means. And the government of Panama panicked, naturally. And then, as a result of negotiations, Molinos, the president, capitulated completely. And he was forced by the United States to abandon any relationship that he had with China, the BRI, and BRICS. Completely withdrawn. And China respected that because it's a decision by the Panamanian government, even though he didn't like it. Can you imagine the equivalent, the opposite way? Was a country actually wanted to do business with China, And as a result, the United States, had to break or reduce its relationship with the United States. The United States will never accept it. In terms of, finally, on this particular point, on what Mick said, there is a very intense demonization of China, which is toxic. It's really toxic. It's very intense. It takes place every minute of the day, everywhere in the world. This is quite important to know. So for information, in case people want to have a balanced view, a different view, an alternative view, I want to advise and suggest that people read the Global Times, China Daily, and Xinhua News, because you get the other side of the story.